In one moment of misjudgment, a new hotel receptionist accuses a black man of identity theft, not realizing he's actually her boss and the hotel's billionaire owner, who's about to teach her the most unexpected lesson of her career. The elegant lobby of the Meridian Grand Hotel sparkles with polished marble floors and crystal chandeliers. The reception desk is staffed by Jessica, a new employee who is being trained by Michael. The lobby is bustling with guests checking in for a major conference. Michael exits to help another employee with a complicated reservation issue, leaving Jessica alone at the front desk. She looks slightly overwhelmed but determined to prove herself. The front doors open and in walks Marcus Pearson, an impeccably dressed black man in a tailored suit. He carries a sleek briefcase and walks with confidence. Despite having traveled all day, he looks fresh and composed. What isn't obvious is that Marcus is the CEO and owner of the entire Meridian Hotel Group, which includes this flagship location. Marcus approaches the reception desk with a warm smile. He's been away for 2 weeks on business trips to their international properties and decided to stay at his own hotel tonight rather than driving home, as he has early meetings scheduled here tomorrow. "Good evening," Marcus says with a polite nod. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Meridian Grand. How may I help you?" Jessica responds professionally. "I'd like to check in, please. The name is Marcus Pearson." Jessica types the name into her computer and squints at the screen. She looks confused as she searches through the system. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't see a reservation under that name. Are you sure you booked with us directly?" she asks, continuing to scan through the database. "Actually, I didn't make a reservation," Marcus replies with a slight smile. "But there should be a room available for me." Jessica's face falls slightly. The hotel is hosting a major conference and they're nearly at capacity. She bites her lip nervously as she considers how to handle the situation. "I'm afraid we're almost fully booked tonight, sir. Let me check what we have available." She types frantically, looking increasingly anxious as she navigates through the booking system. "We have one standard room left, but it's at our premium rate due to the conference. It would be $650 for the night, plus tax." She looks up apologetically, expecting him to balk at the price. Marcus nods patiently, deciding to let the situation play out. "That will be fine." "Perfect. I'll need a credit card and ID, please," Jessica says, relieved that he's accepted the high rate. Marcus reaches into his wallet and slides across his ID and a black credit card with the hotel's logo on it. Jessica doesn't notice the logo as she quickly takes the cards. In this pivotal section of the story, we witness the fundamental misunderstanding that drives the entire narrative. Jessica, the newly hired receptionist, makes a critical error in judgment that stems from multiple factors, including inexperience, unconscious bias, and the pressure of working alone during a busy conference night. This moment serves as the catalyst for the rest of the story and contains several layers of meaning worth examining in detail. The scene begins with Jessica examining Marcus Pearson's identification carefully. Her initial reaction, staring at the ID for a long moment, indicates that something has caught her attention and disrupted her routine processing. This small detail establishes the building tension in the scene. The physical response described, her eyes widening with recognition, shows that she's made a connection between the name on the ID and something in her memory. However, the narration explicitly states that she misinterprets the situation entirely, setting up the dramatic irony where the audience understands what's happening while Jessica does not. Jessica's skeptical question about whether Marcus is like the CEO of Meridian Hotels reveals her thought process. The use of the word "like" is particularly telling. It indicates she sees this as a comparison rather than a confirmation. She doesn't ask if he is the CEO. She asks if he's claiming to be like the CEO, already framing the situation as an impersonation in her mind. This subtlety in the dialogue reveals her internal processing and assumptions before she explicitly accuses him. Marcus's calm acknowledgement contrasts sharply with Jessica's growing suspicion. His simple, "That's correct" response maintains his dignity and composure, establishing character traits that will become important later in the story. The script describes Jessica looking between Marcus, the ID, and her computer screen as her face flushes, physical manifestations of her internal conflict and embarrassment as she prepares to make a serious accusation. The lowering of Jessica's voice as she suggests the ID is falsified indicates her awareness of the gravity of such an accusation. She's attempting to handle what she perceives as a sensitive security matter discreetly, showing professional instinct despite her mistaken conclusion. The script notes that her accusation is delivered with forced confidence, revealing that beneath her professional demeanor, she's experiencing uncertainty. This subtle detail humanizes Jessica, showing that even as she makes this mistake, part of her recognizes she might be overstepping. When Jessica formally accuses Marcus of impersonation and fraud, she cites specific evidence, the company newsletter stating the CEO is overseas. This detail is crucial as it explains why Jessica wouldn't expect to see Marcus Pearson at this location. It provides a logical foundation for her mistake, rather than portraying her as simply incompetent. The newsletter becomes a plot device that both justifies Jessica's suspicion and creates dramatic irony, as the audience knows information that Jessica doesn't. Plans change, especially for CEOs. Marcus's suppressed smile in response to the newsletter reference adds complexity to his character. Rather than becoming immediately angry, he understands the source of the confusion and finds some humor in the situation. His explanation about his itinerary changing demonstrates both patience and an attempt to de-escalate the situation by providing additional context. This response characterizes him as reasonable and understanding, even when facing an accusation of fraud. The script then describes Jessica's face hardening as she doubles down on her accusation, rather than considering she might be wrong. This psychological response is realistic. When people make public accusations, especially in professional settings, the embarrassment of admitting a mistake can drive them to entrench further in their position. The narrative explicitly states this is due to inexperience, suggesting that with more seasoning in her role, she might have handled the situation differently, perhaps by seeking a manager's input earlier. The involvement of other hotel guests who start to notice the interaction raises the stakes significantly. What began as a private exchange is now becoming a public scene that could potentially damage the hotel's reputation for customer service. The security guard's interest further escalates the situation from a simple misunderstanding to a potential security incident. These environmental factors increase the pressure on both characters and amplify the impact of Jessica's mistake. Marcus's suggestion that Jessica call her manager represents a turning point in the scene. Rather than asserting his authority or becoming defensive, he offers a constructive solution that would resolve the situation. This response reveals his leadership qualities. Even when personally confronted, he thinks in terms of systems and proper protocols. His gentle tone, suggests gently, reinforces his characterization as composed and professional even under stress. Jessica's insistence that she's handling the situation demonstrates her commitment to what she believes is protecting the hotel, even as her voice begins shaking slightly. This detail reveals her growing internal conflict. She's becoming uncertain but feels unable to back down. Her statement about needing to protect the hotel from fraud shows that despite her mistake, her motivations are tied to professional duty rather than personal bias, making her a more sympathetic character even as she makes a significant error. The arrival of the security guard at the desk represents the culmination of Jessica's mistake. What began as a routine check-in has now escalated to a security matter. The guard's neutral question, "Is there a problem here?" creates a moment of suspense as the audience wonders how Marcus will respond to this further escalation. Will he finally lose patience? Will he pull rank? The scene ends on this cliffhanger, setting up the revelation that follows in the next section. At a deeper level, this scene explores several important themes. First, it examines how appearances and expectations can influence perception. Jessica has a mental image of what the CEO should look like or how he should behave. And when Marcus doesn't match that image perfectly, perhaps in ways related to his race, though this is subtly implied rather than explicitly stated, she questions his identity despite having his ID in hand. The scene also addresses the tension between security protocols and customer service in the hospitality industry. Jessica is caught between these competing priorities, following security procedures while maintaining a welcoming environment for guests. Her error is choosing to lean too heavily toward security without seeking additional guidance or considering alternative explanations. Power dynamics play a significant role in this section as well. Jessica, in her position at the reception desk, temporarily holds power over access to the hotel services. Marcus, despite being the owner of the entire hotel chain, finds himself in the position of having to prove his identity. This reversal of expected power dynamics creates both the tension and the opportunity for character revelation that drives the story forward. The scene also touches on the theme of corporate hierarchy and how information flows within organizations. The fact that Jessica knows about the CEO's planned whereabouts through a company newsletter, but doesn't know that those plans change, highlights how employees at different levels may have different access to information, leading to misunderstandings. From a narrative perspective, this section employs dramatic irony effectively. The audience knows Marcus's true identity while Jessica does not. This creates tension and anticipation as viewers wait for the inevitable moment of revelation. The scene also builds suspense through escalation. What begins as a simple misunderstanding becomes increasingly serious as Jessica calls over security. The dialogue in this section reveals character through both content and delivery. Marcus's calm, measured responses contrast with Jessica's increasingly nervous assertions. The power of understatement is demonstrated in Marcus's reactions. His raised eyebrow and suppressed smile communicate volumes about his character without explicit description. This section sets up the themes of judgment, prejudice, and appearance versus reality that will be explored more fully in the resolution of the story. By establishing these conflicts early and building tension around them, the script prepares for the reversal and learning moment that will come when Marcus's identity is confirmed. Most importantly, this section creates a situation where both characters are sympathetic despite being in conflict. Marcus is clearly being misjudged, yet he responds with patience rather than anger. Jessica is making a serious error, but she's doing so out of genuine concern for her employer's interests rather than malice. This balanced characterization sets the stage for a resolution that focuses on learning and growth rather than blame and punishment. The conclusion of this section, with the security guard asking if there's a problem, leaves the audience in suspense about how the situation will resolve. The escalation has reached a critical point where something must give. Either Jessica will need to back down, or Marcus will need to more forcefully assert his identity. This narrative tension drives the audience's curiosity to see how the situation will be resolved in the following section. The third part of our narrative, aptly titled The Revelation, serves as the pivotal turning point where the dramatic tension that is built throughout the story finally breaks. This section is carefully crafted to deliver the emotional payoff of the misunderstanding while simultaneously setting up the more profound thematic exploration that will follow in the final part. The revelation unfolds in layers, affecting each character differently and shifting the power dynamics in unexpected ways. The scene begins with perfect dramatic timing. Michael returns to the reception desk just as the confrontation between Jessica, Marcus, and the security guard reaches its climax. This narrative device of the timely arrival is deliberate, creating a deus ex machina moment that prevents the situation from escalating further while also serving as the vehicle for the revelation. The description of Michael immediately recognizing Marcus establishes that the CEO is indeed a known figure to longer-term employees, subtly suggesting that Jessica's mistake stems partially from her newness rather than solely from bias or incompetence. Michael's enthusiastic greeting, "Mr. Pearson, welcome back, sir," serves multiple narrative functions. First, it confirms Marcus's identity for the audience, though they likely already knew. Second, it signals to all present characters that Jessica has made a mistake. Third, it establishes Michael's relationship with Marcus as one of familiar respect, providing contrast to Jessica's suspicious approach. The exclamation points in Michael's dialogue convey his genuine pleasure at seeing the CEO, indicating that Marcus is likely well regarded by his employees rather than feared, an important character detail that will become relevant in how he handles the aftermath. The additional information that Michael provides, that they weren't expecting Marcus until tomorrow's board meeting, offers further context that explains why Jessica might not have been prepared for his arrival. This small detail serves to partially absolve Jessica of responsibility. She wasn't negligent in failing to recognize him, as his presence truly was unexpected. This narrative choice helps maintain Jessica as a sympathetic character despite her significant error. The physical description of Jessica freezing with her face draining of color vividly captures the moment of horrific realization that every working professional fears, discovering you've made a terrible mistake involving someone important. This visceral reaction humanizes Jessica, inviting the audience to empathize with her mortification rather than condemn her error. Similarly, the security guard taking a step back illustrates how quickly power dynamics shift when identities are revealed. The guard, who moments ago was approaching to potentially remove Marcus, now physically retreats in deference. Marcus's response to Michael is significant for what it doesn't contain. There's no immediate announcement of Jessica's mistake, no public humiliation or power play. Instead, his calm explanation that plans changed and reference to Jessica, helping me check in, offers her a graceful cover, suggesting to anyone listening that the interaction was routine rather than confrontational. This small mercy reveals Marcus's character as someone who doesn't need to assert dominance or embarrass others to maintain his authority. Michael's quick assessment of the situation, looking between Jessica's pale face and the ID still in her hand, shows his experience and emotional intelligence. The understanding flashing across his features indicates he's pieced together exactly what happened without needing to be told, sparing Jessica the additional embarrassment of having to explain her error. His gentle explanation to Jessica confirms Marcus's identity while providing the missing context about the newsletter that led to her confusion. Jessica's physical state, standing frozen in mortification, continues to emphasize the emotional impact of this revelation. Her trembling hands and barely audible voice convey the physical manifestations of extreme embarrassment and fear. Her apology, beginning with "I'm so sorry," employs stuttering to convey her emotional state without needing additional description. Her explanation that she was trying to protect the hotel from fraud reiterates her good intentions, ensuring the audience remembers she acted out of misguided duty rather than malice. Marcus's response to Jessica's apology marks the first major beat in his character development within this scene. His reassuring smile and statement that no harm done establishes him as gracious in victory. His follow-up that her vigilance was commendable goes further, reframing her mistake as a positive trait of diligence taken too far rather than a failure of judgment. This reframing is crucial to the story's message about seeing beyond appearances and valuing substance over form. Michael's immediate move to upgrade Marcus to the presidential suite represents the expected corporate response, special treatment for the boss, an attempt to compensate for the embarrassment with luxury. This action serves as a backdrop against which Marcus's next decision becomes more meaningful. When Marcus declines the upgrade, stating the standard room Jessica found will be fine, he subverts expectations in a way that reveals additional dimensions to his character. This decision accomplishes several things narratively. It shows Marcus doesn't exploit his position for personal gain. It signals that he doesn't hold a grudge against Jessica. And it maintains a connection between them. It's still Jessica's room that will become important in the final section. His practical explanation that he's only here for one night further characterizes him as pragmatic rather than self-important. The final beats of this section shift focus from the immediate resolution of the identification crisis to the aftermath and ripple effects. Jessica, standing to the side, still visibly upset, shows that the emotional impact of her mistake lingers even after the factual misunderstanding has been resolved. The detail about other employees noticing and whispers spreading illustrates how workplace incidents rarely remain private, especially in service industries where staff work in close proximity. This observation creates tension about Jessica's future at the hotel and sets up the stakes for the final section. The revelation scene operates on multiple levels within the narrative. At its most basic level, it resolves the case of mistaken identity that drives the plot. But more subtly, it serves as a character study of both Jessica and Marcus under pressure. For Jessica, we see someone facing the consequences of a significant professional error in real time, cycling through embarrassment, fear, and uncertainty about her future. For Marcus, we witness a leader's true character revealed not through his corporate biography or position of authority, but through how he treats someone who has wronged him when he holds all the power. This section also explores several thematic elements central to the story. It examines how hierarchy functions within corporate environments, with the immediate deference shown to Marcus once his identity is confirmed, contrasting sharply with the suspicion he faced moments before. It touches on the performance aspects of hospitality work, where employees must quickly pivot from enforcement to accommodation depending on a guest's status. And it begins to address questions about judgment and appearance that will be more fully explored in the final section. The revelation scene also serves an important structural purpose within the narrative. It resolves the immediate tension of the misidentification while creating new tension about Jessica's future employment. This pivot keeps the audience engaged by replacing one question, will Marcus be recognized, with another, what will happen to Jessica? The scene also shifts the emotional register from suspense and confrontation to embarrassment and uncertainty, creating emotional variety that maintains audience interest. From a technical standpoint, the writing in this section employs several effective techniques. The use of physical descriptions, Jessica's trembling hands, pale face, and quiet voice, conveys emotional states without explicitly naming them. The dialogue balances exposition, explaining why Jessica made her mistake, with character development, showing Marcus's gracious response, and the pacing alternates between moments of revelation and moments of reaction, giving the audience time to process the emotional implications of each development. This section also carefully manages point of view and empathy. Though Marcus has been wronged, the narrative focuses significantly on Jessica's experience of realizing her mistake. This choice invites the audience to consider how it feels to be wrong, not just the impact of being wrongly accused. By maintaining empathy for Jessica, even as she's revealed to be mistaken, the story avoids creating a simplistic villain and instead presents a more nuanced exploration of human error and its consequences. The revelation scene contains several moments of subverted expectations that keep the narrative fresh. Rather than becoming angry or punitive, Marcus shows understanding. Rather than accepting special treatment, he declines the upgrade. These choices work against audience expectations of how power typically operates in corporate hierarchies, suggesting that the story has more to say about leadership and character than simply confirming that the boss is always right. This section also begins to explore questions about recognition and appearance that have particular resonance given Marcus's identity as a black CEO. Jessica's comment that she didn't recognize you from your photos in the corporate materials hints at the possibility that appearances can be deceiving in multiple ways, not just in the possibility of fraud, but in how people may look different from their representations, how preconceptions might affect recognition, and how identity markers like race might influence expectations about who occupies positions of power. As the scene closes with Jessica's fate uncertain and whispers spreading among the staff, the narrative tension shifts from the immediate confrontation to the broader question of consequences. This unresolved tension propels the audience into the final section, eager to discover how this incident will affect both Jessica's career and Marcus's leadership approach. The revelation has occurred, but its full implications remain to be seen, setting up the final section where the story's thematic exploration of judgment, appearance, and redemption will reach its conclusion. The final section of our narrative, the lesson, serves as both resolution and revelation, a crucial component that transforms what could have been a simple case of mistaken identity into a meaningful exploration of leadership, bias, protocol, and growth. This section carries the heaviest thematic weight of the story, carefully balancing the need for dramatic closure with deeper philosophical insights about how we perceive others and the value of second chances. The scene opens with a temporal shift, indicated by the next morning, which allows the emotional intensity of the previous confrontation to settle while creating space for reflection. Marcus's appearance, dressed impeccably in a fresh suit, reinforces his professional stature while suggesting he has moved beyond the previous night's incident. The detail that he's preparing for the board meeting reminds the audience of his purpose at the hotel, reconnecting the narrative to his original motivation for staying there. The description of Marcus crossing the lobby creates a visual of him navigating the same physical space where the confrontation occurred, but now with his identity and authority fully established. This spatial continuity emphasizes the contrast between his treatment now versus the previous evening. When he spots Jessica at the reception desk, the story sets up the anticipated confrontation that audiences have been waiting for. the moment when the powerful figure addresses the person who wronged them. Jessica's body language, looking down, clearly still embarrassed, reveals that she's been carrying the weight of her mistake through the night. This detail humanizes her, showing that the consequences of her error extend beyond the immediate incident into psychological and emotional aftermath. Her avoidance of eye contact suggests shame and fear, creating tension about whether she will be punished for her mistake. Marcus's deliberate detour to the reception desk represents a choice rather than an accidental encounter. He is purposefully seeking Jessica out rather than avoiding her or leaving her discipline to others, suggesting his direct approach to leadership and personal involvement in matters concerning his employees. His simple "Good morning, Jessica" carries weight precisely because of its normalcy. He addresses her by name and with courtesy despite their previous encounter. Jessica's formal response, "Good morning, Mr. Pearson," maintains professional protocol, while her quiet delivery and inability to meet his eyes reinforces her continuing embarrassment. Her immediate move to apologize again indicates she has been ruminating on the incident, and her statement that she completely understands "if you want me dismissed" reveals her expectation of serious consequences. This moment represents her lowest point, anticipating punishment and the loss of her job. The turning point comes with Marcus's unexpected response, "Actually, I'd like to thank you." This statement creates a dramatic reversal that subverts both Jessica's expectations and likely those of the audience. The description of Jessica looking up in surprise physically embodies this reversal. She literally raises her eyes as her spirits lift with unexpected hope. Her questioning echo, "Thank me?" invites Marcus to elaborate on this surprising perspective. Marcus's explanation that her commitment to protecting this hotel from fraud is exactly the kind of dedication we need reframes her mistake as a manifestation of a positive quality, diligence, rather than evidence of incompetence or bias. His observation that many people would have simply assumed I was who I said I was hints at a deeper understanding of security vulnerabilities in hospitality systems where appearances and charisma can override protocols. The specific praise that she followed protocol and trusted your training validates her professional approach, while subtly suggesting that the real failure might lie in systems that didn't adequately prepare her to recognize leadership. Jessica's physical response, blinking rapidly, fighting back tears of relief, captures the emotional impact of being offered understanding instead of punishment. Her continued focus on having accused the CEO of fraud shows she still sees her actions through the lens of hierarchy rather than security protocol, highlighting the power dynamics that frame her perception of the incident. Marcus's counterpoint that "if I had been an imposter, you would have saved the hotel from a potential security breach" offers a genuine perspective shift. He recontextualizes her actions not as an offense against him personally, but as a service to the organization. His identification of her only mistake as not escalating to your manager when you were uncertain provides constructive feedback rather than condemnation, transforming the interaction from punishment to professional development. The moment when Marcus reaches into his pocket and presents a business card represents a physical manifestation of opportunity arising from error. This gesture transforms what Jessica expected to be a termination into an unexpected advancement. The detail that she accepts the card with trembling fingers conveys her continuing emotional response, while also creating a visual parallel to her trembling hands in the previous night's confrontation, but now with a completely different emotional context. Marcus's invitation for Jessica to consider joining our corporate security training team reveals his ability to recognize potential even in moments of failure. His explanation that "we need people who don't make assumptions based on how someone looks or dresses" directly addresses the implicit bias that may have contributed to the confrontation without explicitly accusing Jessica of prejudice. The phrase "who see beyond appearances" works on multiple levels, referring simultaneously to security protocols, unconscious bias, and the leadership quality of recognizing value in unexpected places. Jessica's speechlessness, "I don't know what to say," captures the overwhelming nature of this reversal of fortune. Marcus's continued explanation about the meeting next Thursday, and that he'd appreciate your input, moves quickly from abstract opportunity to concrete next steps, making the offer tangible rather than merely symbolic. His statement that "you have a perspective that I think our team needs to hear" validates Jessica's experience, suggesting that what makes her valuable is precisely the perspective that led to her mistake. A powerful message about how weaknesses can become strengths when properly channeled. Marcus's parting advice to keep doing your job with the same diligence reinforces that her core approach was correct even if its application was flawed. His humorous note about updating his photo "because he shaved my beard since those corporate headshots were taken" acknowledges a legitimate factor that contributed to the misidentification, while lightening the moment with gentle humor. This detail also subtly points to how corporate materials may not always reflect the diversity and current appearances of leadership, contributing to recognition challenges. The description of hotel staff watching in amazement as Marcus walks away establishes that this interaction has had witnesses who will spread the story throughout the organization. This detail suggests that Marcus's response will have ripple effects beyond Jessica herself, potentially influencing the broader corporate culture. Jessica holding the business card tightly symbolizes her grasping of the opportunity that has emerged from her mistake. Michael's observation that that's not how most people would handle being accused of fraud in their own hotel offers external validation of Marcus's exceptional leadership approach. This comment helps ensure the audience recognizes the unusualness of Marcus's response rather than seeing it as expected behavior. Jessica's agreement and reflection that "I guess that's why he's the CEO" connects his handling of the situation directly to his leadership qualities, suggesting that his response to her error demonstrates precisely the character that has made him successful. At a thematic level, this final section explores several interconnected ideas about leadership, bias, mistakes, and growth. It presents a model of leadership that values humility, forgiveness, and the ability to recognize potential where others might see only failure. Marcus embodies a leadership approach that prioritizes organizational improvement over ego or hierarchical authority, turning a potentially divisive incident into an opportunity for institutional learning. The scene also addresses unconscious bias without becoming didactic or accusatory. By focusing on security protocols rather than explicit discussions of race, the narrative allows for an exploration of how appearances influence judgment without reducing the interaction to a simple morality tale about prejudice. This nuanced approach invites the audience to reflect on their own assumptions without feeling defensive or attacked. The transformation of Jessica's mistake into an opportunity illustrates the theme that failure, when handled properly, can lead to growth rather than merely punishment. This perspective challenges conventional corporate approaches to error that often prioritize blame over learning. Marcus's ability to see Jessica's mistake as valuable data about system vulnerabilities rather than personal incompetence models a more sophisticated approach to organizational improvement. The scene also explores how power can be used either to punish or elevate. Marcus chooses to use his authority not to exercise retribution, which would be within his rights, but to create an opportunity for both individual and organizational development. This portrayal challenges conventional narratives about powerful figures and suggests that true leadership lies in how power is wielded rather than merely in its possession. From a structural perspective, this final section delivers a satisfying reversal that resolves the narrative tension while reinforcing the story's central themes. The transformation of what appeared to be career-ending embarrassment into unexpected opportunity creates emotional satisfaction while encouraging deeper reflection. The conclusion avoids both the cliché of harsh punishment and the equally problematic cliché of consequence-free forgiveness, instead offering a nuanced resolution that acknowledges error while creating a path forward. The section employs several effective narrative techniques to deliver its message without becoming preachy. It uses physical objects, the business card, and gestures, trembling fingers, raised eyes, to embody emotional and power shifts. It balances dialogue and description to create rhythm and emphasis, and it employs a supporting character, Michael, to externalize the evaluation of Marcus's unusual response, ensuring the audience recognizes its significance. The final exchange between Michael and Jessica serves as an effective coda, providing closure while reinforcing the story's message about leadership. Michael's observation frames Marcus's behavior as exceptional rather than expected, while Jessica's response connects that behavior directly to his success as a leader. This connection completes the story's thesis that true leadership reveals itself not in moments of triumph, but in how one responds to challenges and mistakes.